would show him things he had never seen before.
We should show him. We should show him.
Perverts.
You didn't ask him. What are we talking about?
He had not been exposed to. He had not been exposed to all the poor people. She exposed him. She exposed him to all these bad things that were going on in society. Thank goodness for us, he married her.
What do we do? Boogie night, Zeegers.
Are you going to be after class?
No, Zeegers. What do we do?
By the way, who was Eleanor's famous uncle? Her father died.
Edgar.
Her famous uncle was Teddy Roosevelt. So at the wedding, you're skating on thin ice in here. You understand that? Cut it out. Teddy Roosevelt gave Eleanor Roosevelt to Franklin Roosevelt. It was a real family affair. He would continue. They had a number of children. Unfortunately, he winds up having a mistress.
What's a mistress?
Like a side project.
She also probably went outside of their relationship. In 1920, Roosevelt runs for vice president and loses. Roosevelt runs for vice president and loses.
To who? To who?
To Harding. And so, he loses.
Joey left.
A couple of years later,
Who's been left?
he has returned to his estate in New York called Hyde Park. And one morning, he wakes up and he can't move his legs. So they call the doctor, and the doctor, literally overnight, doctor says, Roosevelt, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you've got polio. You will never be able to walk again. And Roosevelt said, what do you mean I'm not going to walk again? I'm going to become president. And doctor said, no way, you can't walk anymore. So, would he ever walk again?
Yeah.
Never. Where will he be for the rest of his life?
In a wheelchair.
In a wheelchair.
How did he do that, though?
So, it's a terrific case in American history where if you have a handicap, you can overcome the handicap. And Roosevelt, I think, is one of the great examples of that. Is that he wasn't going to let the fact that he couldn't walk stop him from doing what he wanted to do. He would go on to become governor of New York, and in 1932, the crippled nation will turn to Roosevelt. Did people really know that he was in a wheelchair?
No.
They did not. They hid the fact that he was.
How they hit it?
They respected him in his space. When, for instance, he was going to make a speech, they wouldn't film it, they wouldn't photograph it, they would wheel his wheelchair in. His aides would pick him up out of the wheelchair. He had steel braces on his legs so he could at least stand up. He would hold on to the podium, and then they would start filming, and he would make the speech. And he was an electrifying speaker. Once he made the speech, they stopped filming, and they put him back in the wheelchair, and they wheeled him off.
Then how do we know?
And so, in his whole presidency, there'll be like 100,000 pictures taken of him. And out of how many show him in a wheelchair?
Like 2.
You got 2, 4. I think 4 is some people say. And so they virtually never saw him in a wheelchair.